This is the CJ Silas Show. She's been talking sports for over half her life. You'll hear big-name guests and all the hot topics. Her roller derby sisters call her Dodge Her Blue. CJ's proud of her California roots and time in New York. Born and raised in L.A., college at USC and Syracuse University. She's not afraid to share her opinions with you. And, like it or not, she wants to be the change. Ladies and gentlemen, all ears and no mask required. Here she is, CJ Silas.
Hey, welcome in live and direct. It is the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7, The Ticket. It is official March Madness. We're starting it off right from the top. You've got to join. You've got to join our Tourney Challenge. I just went to the Tourney Challenge site, and there's almost nobody on there. Usually we have like 100 people that sign up. Where have we gone wrong? Go to ESPN.com. Make an account. It's free. It's nothing. It'll take 5 minutes. Less. Go find the group, ESPN Radio 1280. Join the group. Please join the group. The password is 1280. We need you. We need you to be a part of it because I'm giving away lots of prizes. It's very important for you to be there. I love giving away CJ Silas Show prizes. And P.S., of all the shows on ESPN Radio 1280, I'm the only one that gives away prizes. Even if the winners are not from the CJ Silas Show listenership. And that's why I'm asking you to show up by looking into it. ESPN.com. Search the group, ESPN Radio. It's 2 words. Third word, it's not really a word. Third word, 1280. Password, 1280. Go sign up. I think there's only like 8 people. Just, listen, do me a favor. Do a sister a solid. I don't know why we're not generating the excitement that we usually do. I guess we haven't done one. Did we do one last year? All the interns have to do it or they get fired. I have mine right here. Nobody cares what I picked, but I'm just going to say one thing. My overall winner is a 4 seed. Just saying, okay? In my final 4, I have one number 1 seed. I have a number 2 seed, a number 4 seed, and a number 5 seed in my final 4. Just saying. You want to see it? There we go. Gabe's taking a picture of it. Good luck on finals, by the way. I don't think a single intern is even focused on the show today because they're all in the middle of finals. Doug Gottlieb, one of the smartest basketball minds, I think, in the business, is joining the CJ Silas Show tonight. It's right in the middle of, I think, the second game of the first 4 second day. So the final first 4 of the first 4 is going on right now. In fact, Gabe, will you look that up and find us a score on the first 4? We had 2 last night and 2 tonight. Black History on the CJ Silas Show, as always, coming up in just a couple minutes. I'm a little bit verklempt, distracted, crazy, because it is the month that we are celebrating 10 years on the CJ Silas Show. Bryant and Wright State are in the second half. Wright State leads it 60-51 later. Rutgers and Notre Dame. Yesterday it was Texas Southern beating Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Indiana beating Wyoming to get in. So Indiana's in, Texas Southern is in, and Wright State, Bryant are trying to get in. I didn't know there was a college named Bryant. And then Notre Dame and Rutgers trying to get in, and that's today. And then so I think you have to have your picks into ESPN by 9 a.m. Pacific time or Eastern. It might be Eastern. Check it out, Gabe. Find out. What will you? Poor Gabe. He's the only intern here. He has to do everything. Black History on the CJ Silas Show. Oh, my goodness. I'm so fired up about this Deshaun Watson story. I think I should do Black History first before I get pissed. Okay, I'm going to start with Black History because it's a happy topic. It's a good, positive topic. And then Doug Gottlieb will come up in a few minutes. Black History, Every week on the CJ Silas Show, we celebrate black and brown people who have done great things in the world. Civil rights, music, a lot of sports, athleticism, coaches, players. Anybody who's done something amazing is going to get mentioned on the CJ Silas Show. Really? Until the CJ Silas Show retires. Because there are that many people out there that have not been recognized, that have brown and black skin because of the way the world has been. And here, we're going to do our part. We're going to use this, our microphone. Preet Chandi. Preet Chandi is known also as Polar Preet, known to be the first woman of color ever to complete a solo expedition in Antarctica. She's 33 years old and was born in Derby, United Kingdom. She began her career in adventure when she first joined the Territorial Army at age 19 and the British Army at 27, and she now serves as a critical training officer. She announced her solo expedition to Antarctica last year after training for 2 years. Her 700-mile trip to the South Pole completed January 3rd of this year after 40 days of walking through the ice and snow with her 200-pound sled in tow, carrying all her supplies and food. Her goal was to act as a role model for young women and those of ethnic backgrounds and to raise money for Khalsa Aid, an international NGO that works to provide humanitarian aid in disaster areas and civil conflict zones. Preet Chandi spent time in Antarctica on this amazing journey, documenting it through her blog, setting updates and inspiration from the sub-zero. Preet Chandi. Spike Lee, born March 20th, 1957 in Atlanta, Georgia, is a director, a producer, a screenwriter, and a professor whose work has continuously explored race, political issues, poverty, and much more. He spoke at Cal Poly a couple of years ago. I went and watched him speak. Amazing. I've sent him many letters asking him to come on the CJ Silas Show, and he's never even rejected them. He just ignores me. Spike Lee attended Morehouse College, where he made his first student film known as Last Hustle in Brooklyn. He took film courses at Clark Atlanta University, graduated with his bachelor's, then continued his education in New York, where he got his master's in fine arts. Lee's production company, known as 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks, has produced over 35 films since it was founded in 1979, including some of my favorites, Malcolm X, Jungle Fever, and Black Klansman. Spike Lee has many awards to demonstrate his success, including an Academy Award, 2 Emmy Awards, a Cannes Grand Prix, and much more. Spike Lee continues to be an inspiration in filmmaking, using his medium to educate and intrigue. Kyrie Irving, born March 23rd, 1992 in Melbourne, Australia. He's a professional basketball player for the Brooklyn Nets. He started his basketball career playing in college for Duke, 2010-2011. After that, he was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. In 2014, Irving won MVP for the 2014 All-Star Game. In 2016, he made the game-winning three-pointer in the NBA Finals to beat the Warriors in a historical comeback. After another appearance in the NBA Finals, Kyrie Irving requested a trade, moved to the Boston Celtics, where he played for 2 years, after signing that with the Nets as a free agent in 2019. He was also elected the vice president of the National Basketball Players Association in 2020. He's a member of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and is an active philanthropist to his Lakota people. Kyrie Irving. No more brackets can be put into our tournament, huh? Once the games first tip off tomorrow. Thank you, Gabe. Good transition, by the way. First game is number 6 Colorado State at number 11 Michigan. Not at, versus. And that is at 9:15 Pacific. I'm going to tell you, get your brackets in by 9 a.m. to be sure tomorrow. I like that game, Colorado State and Michigan. I thought Juwan Howard was coaching. I thought they gave him only 5 games and he's coaching now. We'll see. I think he is. Gabe's going to check on that. I definitely don't want to be wrong on that. Coming up, Doug Gottlieb from FSR. He's a basketball color analyst. He played basketball at Oklahoma State. He played professionally. He also won medals at the Maccabee Games. He's a talk show host now on FSR. He used to work for CBS, the Pac-12 Network. You can find his podcast anywhere. I have some passion for the Deshaun Watson story in the NFL. Deshaun Watson has been making money for months now after being accused by over 20 women of sexual assault and misconduct. Deshaun Watson has been in talks about trades in the NFL for the entire time. He was inactive but getting paid by the Houston Texans. And it made me realize how angry I get at the NFL. I get angry at the NFL. I have animosity and bitterness and angry feelings towards the NFL because I think the NFL is a sham when it comes to how they respond to domestic violence in their league. I can name a few people over the past few years that still played regularly, even though they were either accused, charged, or pled guilty in domestic violence. Some of them are Antonio Brown, Chad Wheeler from the Seahawks, felony domestic assault, Adrian Peterson, just happened last month. And before that, he was accused of child abuse. Let's not forget. Greg Hardy, 2 known assaults and still played after both of those. Robert Kraft, Tyreek Hill, punched his pregnant girlfriend in the stomach, didn't miss a game. Abused his 3-year-old kid and threatened his fiancée later. Frank Clark was kicked off the Michigan football team and he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Terrell Suggs. His domestic violence issues began in 2009. He has never been suspended by the NFL. He has 2 Super Bowl rings, and this is the best part. He was honored this year by the Ravens in the game when Ben Roethlisberger said goodbye, when it was the Steelers against the Ravens. Are you effing kidding me? And Deshaun Watson. Yes, there are a lot more. This is just the few that came to mind, just in my mind. Since 2010, over 200 players have violated the NFL policies on domestic violence. But there's no difference in the number of suspensions between the violence against women policies and drug-related offenses in the NFL. I laugh because I'm uncomfortable. I don't laugh because it's funny. We look at the NFL when Ray Rice was seen on a video in an elevator in 2014 punching his girlfriend who's now married to him because it's a sad story. That is not funny. How the abused can't get out and don't know how to stop enabling people that beat on them. We thought it was a turning point in 2014 because we saw something on video and the NFL decided they were going to put in these new training. The NFL implemented some training for its players. 2 years later, they stopped after 2016. You know what, NFL? I like the game that you have on the field, but you're offensive. No, Deshaun Watson is not going to face criminal charges at this time. That's happened in the past. I mentioned this last week. But there are still over 20 women that will file civil suits against him. No matter how much money a man gives a woman that he has harassed, fondled, raped, no matter how much money you give the women that have been treated this way, abused, disrespected, it never goes away. You can't counsel it out of somebody's experience or their memory. You can't take back the time. You cannot forget what has happened to you when you are a woman who has been abused, assaulted, or raped. I am just thinking off the top of my head, and then I looked up a couple guys like I didn't know about the Frank Clark story, the kid who got kicked off the Michigan team and is now with Kansas City. I knew about Ray Rice, Tyreek Hill, Robert Kraft, Greg Hardy, Adrian Peterson. I didn't know about the felony charges against Chad Wheeler. He's not playing anymore, but he did. And then, and I forgot about Kareem Hunt. Terrell Suggs. Let's not forget about the Washington football team. Front office harassment and abuse, and the owner is still in power. Dozens of women have come forward in that situation. Roger Goodell is powerless. I actually have a little empathy for him because he doesn't boss the owners. They're his bosses. They pay his exorbitant, outrageous, irrational salary. Deshaun Watson being talked about for 23 hours a day on this network and on others is offensive because you're not talking about what happened. It's interesting because when women talk about the story, and I'm making a generalization, when women talk about the story, there's passion and there's empathy for the women that it happened to, for the most part. When men talk about the story, generally, it hasn't been proven. Sometimes women make this up for money. She's crazy. This is such an awful story. I'm actually quite thankful that the Dolphins are not talking about him anymore. And I think they just got Teddy Bridgewater, and I think that they're settled in. But the Seahawks have mentioned him. Cleveland, a lot of teams are interested in him. Why shouldn't they be? Because all of these other guys still got to play in the NFL too, even if they had criminal charges. A lot of them had restraining orders against them, which, by the way, if a woman is not afraid of someone, they're not going to take the time to go file a restraining order. It's only when it's on video that people take it seriously. This is a crock of horse manure. I'm not talking about it anymore. And if I talk about it, I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint of, how dare you, NFL? How dare you try to wear a pink ribbon in October? How dare you tell us you're going to train the new and younger incoming players in the NFL and then that training goes away? How dare you pretend to give a crap about the other gender on this planet? How dare you, NFL? How dare you? I haven't been to an NFL game in a long time. I've not paid for a ticket to an NFL game in probably 20 years since I lived in Seattle and I had season tickets to the Seahawks. I haven't been to many NFL games. We're not going to stop the madness. We're not going to protest and boycott the NFL. There's not enough people that are willing to give it up. So how do we fix this? I have no idea. I usually like to come with a solution, but with this problem, I don't have one. So my solution for the NFL is talk less about it, give it less play, because you don't really even need it, because the other 23 hours on the same radio network on Wednesdays, 80% of the talk is the NFL, even in the offseason. There's not even anything going on. The draft is until next month. It's March Madness. Spring training is starting. The NBA is in its final few weeks before the playoffs. There are exciting things happening all around. But for some reason, the 24-hour sports news cycle decides they have to spend a lot of time on the NFL. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will not do that. I will not give a business that much play when they're such hypocrites, they're contradictory, they're posers, and they give nothing about nothing. There was even a guy that killed his wife or baby mama and then himself on a training facility in front of the general manager at the time, and I'm pretty sure it was the Kansas City Chiefs. And my friend Scott Pioli was working for them then. NFL, you may not hear me, but I know I speak for other people. You're disgusting. You're offensive. And the fact that all of these teams are considering signing a guy like Deshaun Watson in this situation does not surprise me. But, but Atlanta wide receiver Calvin Ridley is suspended indefinitely by the NFL because he gambled? He gambled. He bet money. He didn't punch anybody. He didn't threaten anybody. He didn't strangle anybody. He didn't beat someone up in front of a 3-year-old. And he's still getting paid. Don't even get me started about Michael Vick and what he did, because he never would have had any remorse had he not gotten caught. He'd probably still be doing it. Yeah, he paid his price. He went right back to the NFL, and now he's some big hotshot analyst. What the WTF? WTF? Calvin Ridley is indefinitely suspended and Deshaun Watson is still getting paid? Trevor Bauer was still getting paid in Major League Baseball? What is wrong with these businesses? Thank goodness. Thank goodness I don't get paid by any of them. All right, I got to take a deep breath. I got to take a break. Thank you to my partners. Oh my. Wait, one more thing. The contest. We're giving away. Are you ready to talk about it right now? Or you'll talk about it in the last segment. Gabe's going to come on and talk about the contest for the 2 listeners that get 2 tickets to the VIP CJ Silas Show 10-year anniversary party happening at the end of this month. You'll get to come and hang out with us and all our partners and drink delicious wine and eat amazing food. And you've got to put your contest, your name in the hopper. All right, we'll get to that in a minute after Doug Gottlieb. I want to thank my partners, Jim Nalzo, Daniel Lapidus, and Larry Ackerman, The Best Dentist, Brad Kurgis Dermatology, The Slow Wellness Center, California Fresh Markets, the Avila Bay Athletic Club and Spa, Michael Moore Sports Recovery, and Joy Shell Beach. Coming up, Doug Gottlieb, we're talking March Madness on this amazing radio station, ESPN 1280 and FM 101.7, The Ticket.
We're back with the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio 1280. Here's CJ.
Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. I promise you March is all about basketball, unless, of course, some big story pops up, which the NFL tends to find a way to tap into that every year. But we're going to focus on basketball, but he's got opinions on everything. He's an old friend in the business, though he's younger than me. He's from FSR. You know him from noon to 3 Pacific. He is Doug Gottlieb on the CJ Silas Show. Happy 2-year anniversary of the pandemic.
Is that today?
Well, today it depends on where you were and what your life was like, but today was my last day with a real life. Sports had started kind of pulling back on March 9th, but the last time I was in the restaurant, we were prepping for St. Patrick's Day, and we had just gotten in all the corned beef and cabbage and potatoes and everything, and then Newsom said no alcohol on St. Patrick's Day. I remember that was on like the 16th, and then we all got an email. We're not even going to open. We're just going to do to-go St. Patrick's Day food on the 17th. And baseball had already ended for me. Softball had already ended like a week ago. What about you?
So the day before, I had guest hosted for Cowherd. And we were in our meeting. We were talking about it was the night that Rudy Gobert, later that night, he tested positive and kind of the whole world lost their mind a little bit. So it was that day, and I was like, I remember there's one guy who's a liaison between the executives and that show. And the show meeting has like 12 people in there, whatever. And we kind of go through things. And as is usually the case with me, we steer off course and we get into like bagel hierarchy or cereal hierarchy. The last 45 minutes of the meeting have nothing to do with the actual show. So at some point I was like, hey, should we be talking about this coronavirus? And I got a very stern, like, we don't need to, we're a sports show. We don't need to talk about it doesn't affect sports. I was like, well, yeah, but, we got conference tournaments, NCAA tournament, NBA stuff. They're like, nah, we're good. So I remember walking out to the set, and I turned to the same gentleman, and I was like, are you sure? He's like, positive. We don't need to, it's March. It's happy time. It's brackets. Keep it there. All right. So I do the show, and then the next morning, I'm actually driving to the airport because I do the Big Ten network, a Big Ten tournament on radio. And so I remember I'm going to the airport and I get a text that says turn around. And I like an idiot, I look over my shoulder. And I keep looking at my shoulder like the Big Ten tournament's been canceled. I was like, oh, I thought somebody was behind me. Anyway. So I went home. Yeah, it was weird. It all happened so quickly that everything got canceled, and yeah, the whole thing was strange. 2 years ago, that's a wow.
Isn't that nuts? I decided to not cut my hair for 2 years. So I let it grow and I'm donating it. I've wanted to do it my whole life, but it's so long, it's unmanageable. And I'm at the 2-year mark. I'm like, oh my gosh, I finally get to cut this hair off and donate it to someone who needs. What about the family? Were they at home? When you went home, was everyone already in lockdown at your house?
No, they still kept sending them. We still kept sending them for like a week.
Yeah.
Actually, I have 2 that are in a private school. And that thing was like they were off for the rest of the week, and then they were on Zoom right after that. And then the public school thing was just an abject disaster.
Oh my gosh! Well, here we are, and we've got some blessings, but it's not over. But it feels better, that at least from my opinion. Doug Gottlieb, You can hear him on FSR. He's also does basketball in the postseason on Westwood One and during the regular season. He actually works with a couple old pals of mine. Chuck Wilson, when I was at ESPN and they started the radio network, I was in Bristol. I was a production assistant when Chuck Wilson and Tony... Oh, that's going to bug me.
Kornheiser.
Yeah, no, it was the bald guy.
Oh, Tony Bruno.
Tony Bruno, who I later bumped into again in my career when I was sitting in the studio where you sit in Sherman Oaks, because I worked there too. It's so funny how our paths have crossed, but we've never met face to face, which is really nuts. He's Doug Gottlieb joining the CJ Silas Show. I'm looking at the Final Four, and I'm looking at all of it, and I'm trying not to go too far ahead. And I'm thinking about the tournament and some of the stories that are interesting to me, and I want to know your take on some of these. The Bruce Pearl at Auburn story. For me, if you don't follow college basketball closely, you don't even know what happened to him at Tennessee almost 10 years ago, right? So, because he's been at Auburn since 2014. He worked in a grocery store chain. He did some TV. And now here he is with Auburn in the postseason again. What do you think about when Bruce Pearl comes to mind?
Well, Bruce is a friend of mine. It's one of those things that's really interesting where from afar, I think I always thought, he's just a great people person, motivator dude, Tony Robbins kind of thing. As a basketball coach, he just kind of rolls them out. And then I got a chance to coach with him. I was blown away by his level of basketball IQ, and there's a reason a logic behind everything he does and how he does it. I think he's really good, and he's got a very talented team. He's got the likely number 1 overall pick in Jabari Smith. And he lets his guards, who aren't great, but he lets them act like they are great and take some shots. I think he does it so that in the postseason they're not nervous. His teams aren't tight. That's a skill as a coach to develop. So I think they're really good, and I think Bruce is one of the more underrated coaches because of the Tennessee thing and some other kind of carnival barker stuff that he's done during his career.
When we as talk show hosts talk about these guys, we remember some of the stuff when we're interviewing one of them and we're doing prep on their history and where they've come from. Kind of like you, I know your background and you look them up and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I remember about that. We as broadcasters, we as sports talk show hosts, we as entertainers, we talk about it and we let it go and move on to the present day. How fair is it out in the public when it comes to how people treat men and women in this business that make mistakes?
I think it depends on the level of contrition. I think there's a statute of limitations as well. And I also think that so few times people understand context. Like Bruce Pearl, for people who don't know, he was an assistant at Iowa under Tom Davis. And there was a star player from the state of Illinois on a recorded audio conversation, told Bruce Pearl he got to go to Illinois, he got $75,000 in a car. Now, he later came back and denied it and said he was just saying that. But Bruce turned that tape over. Illinois got turned in, or Illinois got put on probation. It forever changed Lou Henson and his level of success at Illinois. So he's hated by Illinois fans and hated by some who think, you don't turn somebody in. And then, it's like karma that he got caught having a barbecue during a dead period, whatever. Like, the whole thing is crazy what these guys get in trouble for as opposed to the actual rules that we're trying to keep in place. I think it's our job as broadcasters to give context and perspective. And if you want to give opinion, that's fine. Your opinion has to be, I think, based upon something other than I don't like the guy. And if it is I don't like the guy, then say, well, I just don't like the guy. Like, oh, it's okay. Nobody likes everybody. And then there are some guys in our men and women in our field who try and do the I like everybody. Everybody's my friend. And that comes across as phony to me. I just think, for fans don't know. It lasts a lot longer in a fan's brain than it does a regular human's brain, which is fine. But I think you got to understand that people do stupid stuff if they're contrite about it. If the rest of their career is something completely different, and if they've expired the normal statute of limitations, then let's all move on with our lives. Life is way too short.
He's a former basketball player at Oklahoma State. He also played in the pros, and he's an college basketball insider plus sports talk show host, so he knows a lot about most things. He's Doug Gottlieb from FSR. And I asked you about Bruce Pearl because then I wanted to ask you about Juwan Howard, who's back with Michigan. And we all watched the video. We have our opinions about what happened. You can't compare what Bruce Pearl did years ago to what Juwan Howard did recently. I'm curious what you think about Juwan Howard coming back this quick and what happened that day, how you feel about that.
I think the opinion he carries is that people are out to get him. It's the sense I get, that people are out to get him. And I don't know if you ever had this in your life when somebody will say something to you and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're like, why are you so defensive? Like, well, I'm not actually being defensive, but your tone and you telling me I'm being defensive is making me seem defensive. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of feel like Juwan gets backed into a corner a little bit and gets defensive. And he's made to seem more defensive when people are assuming, and some of it is his body language, is that of somebody who's being defensive. All that said, look, I wouldn't have called a timeout with my walk-ons in, and if you just wanted to reset the clock, then just call a timeout and reset the 10-second clock or whatever, and you can turn and ask Juwan why he's pressing. But he did call a timeout, and Juwan's team was still pressing. If you're still pressing, then you're still coaching, then I can still coach as well. Again, I don't love it, but I just thought Juwan was totally out of line. That said, he's been embarrassed. He served a 5-game suspension. Whether he's contrite or not, it's enough. Now don't do it again. Time served. I'm good. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I feel the same. And I'm curious, too, with that momentum and some of the shift of attention has been on that situation, and now he's back with the team. But this is a pretty good team. How likely is this team to go far in the tournament?
Their point guard didn't travel with them to their first game against Colorado State. I think they're getting beat by Colorado State.
Wow.
I think Colorado State's a little bit underseeded, and Michigan's had guard problems to begin with, and now you lose your starting point guard before you're taking on a team that is really talented in the backcourt and gets after you. Yeah, I don't love it for Michigan.
You can find him on FSR from 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific. You can also find his podcast wherever you listen to yours. Basketball insider Doug Gottlieb joining the CJ Silas show. I was looking at some of the stories that were interesting to me. Not just matchup, but stories in this post-tournament. What is one that you're going to be watching closely?
Oh, there's a bunch. I mean, obviously, Coach K, it's his last year, and that team's kind of been sputtering a little bit here down the stretch. I'll be fascinated by that. I'm interested in the WCC, a league that has wanted multiple bids forever. Now you got them, and BYU didn't even get in, and you have St. Mary's and San Francisco with decent draws. Now you got to put some wins behind you, not just, they solved the math equation for how to get into the tournament. Now you got to win actually in the tournament. I'm interested in how Arizona plays when they play in the NCAA tournament. When they're allowed to run up and down free and easy, they're really good. They're fun to watch. They're well coached. They're talented. I love them. But I don't know what they're like in a meat grinder. And the one time that they kind of got put into a buzzsaw was Tennessee, and they got off to such a terrible start they could never really recover. So I'm interested in Arizona, what that looks like. I'm interested in, there's about 7 or 8 of these kids that are going to be lottery picks. I want to see who elevates themselves. I saw Keegan Murray from Iowa. He's amazing. You have Keegan Murray from Iowa. You have Johnny Davis from Wisconsin. You have Jabari Smith from Auburn. You have Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. These are all freshmen and sophomores that are takeover game. Jaden Ivey from Purdue. Who's going to take over this tournament? Because usually the guys that are going to be stars in the NBA, this is the time when they hit a switch and they decide to become stars in college. And that's what I think I'm most excited for.
Doug Gottlieb from FSR joining the CJ Silas show. I don't want to compare brackets. I don't want to hear about any of your picks because nobody really cares about our picks, let's be honest. But I want to know how you go through it. Do you do one sheet? Do you do one serious sheet?
Yes.
Do you do one with Oklahoma State winning? How do you do it?
When you're a former player, I think people think, and some guys do, they just pick their school or whatever.
Yeah.
I think my critique of Oklahoma State can be more harsh than other people because I played there.
Yeah.
When I'm into them, I'm more into them. When I'm out on them, I'm not more out on them. I think most guys move on when the coach moves on. Fans do not. Fans are fans of their school no matter what. I just kind of go game by game. That's really it. I do one sheet. I do game by game, and then I try and write down 2 or 3 reasons why. and that way I know if I'm right or if I'm wrong. And the cool thing about this job, so I've done just about every job around the NCAA tournament, right? Calling games. Calling games is super fun. You know, you have to be there 2 hours for your game. In between games, you're taking off headset and you might watch another game, but you really want to get away. And you got 4 games in a day. The day before, you're prepping for 8 different teams. It's like speed dating where you have 8 different 1-hour sessions with the coaches and SIDs. Then you go back and you have a production meeting. Then you go back to your room and I'm watching film and and then I got the games. And then the day in between, when you could be watching more games, you're interviewing guys for your next day's game. So the point is that when you're on site, you can't actually watch anything else thoroughly other than your site. When you're in studio for TV, there's so many games on, you're bouncing to different networks, you're eating food, there's people around you, you're talking, you're not paying attention to every game. In radio, I've gotten a chance to watch every single stinking game, and they spaced out the games even more so last year. I can't tell you exactly why every game happens the way it happens, but most stuff we don't miss, and it's pretty. It gives you a bigger database for the future. That, oh yeah, I saw that game. I remember this game. I'll give you an example, CJ. It's like, you remember Wichita State's run to the Final Four?
Yes.
Okay. So I did their first 2 games, and the first game they played was against Pittsburgh. That was Steven Adams' only NCAA tournament game. What people don't know is Wichita was trailing in that game, and then I think it's Lamar Patterson. He drove past the guy who was guarding him. His elbow grazed the head of the Wichita State kid, and because of it, it was ruled to be a flagrant foul, and it was his 3rd personal foul. And now all of a sudden, he's in foul trouble, and the game changed dramatically on that one call. Right? But if you didn't watch that game, you just saw Wichita State win by 20. So you don't understand the context of it. The context of it was Pittsburgh was great. Then the best player got his 3rd foul on a rule which has since been changed, right? Because it was a basketball play. It wasn't intentional. But that caused them to sit down, change the entire game, which changed the entire tournament. So those are the things that I love about my job, is watching all these games and watching the little thing, a foul here, a play there, an out-of-bounds call here or there, that can change a game.
It's so crazy that you remember the details of all. You've done hundreds of games, Doug. How do you remember details like that? That's nuts. Did I smoke too much pot when I was younger or something? Because I don't remember those kind of details. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have it. I lose my wallet at least once a week, and my keys. I just leave my keys in my car, to be totally honest. If you want it, it's a nice car, you know. But if you really want it, you can have it, sort of thing. But that way, I just do it so I don't lose it. So it's not like I have a friend. I don't know. I'll tell you off air who this is. I have a friend in the business who's tried to convince me he had a photographic memory because he was like quoting games like this. And I was like, my man, you don't have photographic memory. He's like, what do you mean? I can tell you how many points everybody scores. Like, that's a great memory. A photographic memory tells me what color socks and shoes all these guys are wearing. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, what color tie was the coach wearing? Like, who would know that? I go, somebody with a photographic memory. They close their eyes, and it's like looking at a photo. He's like, nobody does that. I go, yes, I do. People with a photographic memory.
Oh, man. Yeah. So crazy. You have a good memory, though, because you remember these details. Yeah. He's Doug Gottlieb from FSR. You can find him from 12 to 3 Pacific. You can also find his podcast anywhere. I know that you've worked with Chuck Wilson. We talked about that. Drew Bonadelli, who used to work here at ESPN Radio 1280. I was listening to you together recently, maybe like in the last week and a half. And the next time you see him, you have to let him know. We called him Deli Man. I don't know what everyone else calls him out in the world now, that he's a professional and he's not a Cal Poly kid anymore. But we had a bit that we did with Deli Man, where he played this is pre-sports gambling being legal. We have this bit where he called in from overseas somewhere, some island, and he was at youcan'tbetintheus.com. And he would do these picks, and it was so hilarious. And I still sometimes, he's going to be on the show probably next week or the week after, and I still ask him, will you please do some picks? He refuses to admit that he was Big Bad Bubba from youcan'tbetintheus.com. He's such a good guy, so I'm glad. Give him a hug for me when you see him. Thank you for coming on the CJ Silas Show in the busiest time of your career. And it's funny, when I think of you sitting in that studio in Sherman Oaks, I used to take a break right before my show and walk up to Whole Foods and get a chai latte to breathe before I headed back down to the studio in Sherman Oaks. Thank you for being a friend of mine in the business and always showing up for me. I appreciate it.
Anytime, CJ.
Take care. Enjoy it all.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks. He is so awesome. Everybody loves Doug Gottlieb. Find him from noon to 3 Pacific. He's very opinionated. Some people get annoyed by him, but I love how strong his opinions are. I don't always agree, but I respect him, and I respect that when he makes mistakes or he says something that maybe not be awesome, he will catch himself. He's grown up. He visited the Central Coast once, and he loves it here. We're just working through our March Madness bracket. One more time, ESPN Radio 1280. There are 2 on ESPN.com. Get the right one. ESPN is capitalized and a capital R on radio. And then some MFer started another one and coaxed some of us into it. It's the one with like 50 people, not the one with 6. All right? So go get on ESPN Radio 1280. Get into our Tourney Challenge because I've got great prizes coming up. How can you be invited to the VIP 10-year anniversary party of the CJ Silas Show and the Cal Poly Sports Update? It's the CJ Silas Show, Wednesdays live right here on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7. The Ticket.
Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. From her perch atop Madonna Mountain, let's hear it for CJ Silas.
This segment of the CJ Silas Show is brought to you by dentist Dr. Daniel Lapidus and Larry Ackerman. 543-7993. They are friendly, knowledgeable, experienced, and they want you to be comfortable, and it's so comfortable there. Trust me. I actually do sometimes fall asleep. They've been on the Central Coast and working in the dentist industry for over 70 years. Woohoo! They open at 8 a.m. Give them a call. Tell them I sent you. They are accepting new patients if you drop my name. The Cal Poly and Hancock and Cuesta Sports updates. Cal Poly Beach Volleyball beat San Jose State, lost to number 6 LMU in their first home event this year. They beat Washington. They beat Arizona State. Next up, they have 6 matches this coming weekend. Tia Myrick and Ella Connor went 4-0 over the weekend. They are the Student Athletes of the Week in volleyball. Softball split a doubleheader. Saturday, they lost to Pacific, beat Nevada, and then they split another doubleheader on Sunday. They open up their Big West play this weekend at Northridge. Woo! Saturday, a doubleheader at 1. Men's tennis beat Utah State. They're at Cal this coming weekend. Wrestling, 5 wrestlers are headed to the NCAAs. Wow, in his 6th year, Coach John Sioridis, gosh, I hope I said that right. He's really turned, well, the program's always been solid, but 5 to the NCAAs. Pretty cool. Baseball, Drew Thorpe had a complete game shutout, 11 strikeouts, no walks on Friday in a 5-0 win, only allowing 3 hits with Harvard. Only 3 base runners in that game. Then they split the doubleheader on Saturday. They lost on Sunday. Brooks Lee had 4 hits in the game on Saturday that they won. Brett Borgogno had a grand slam. Drew Thorpe is now this week the Big West pitcher of the week because of that complete game shutout with 11 strikes, no walks, and 3 hits. Next up, they're opening Big West play against Northridge as well, but they're doing it here. Friday 6, Saturday 4, Sunday 1. Once again, every weekend during the baseball season, I give away 2 of my own personal tickets to Allen. I can't do Allen Hancock College. It's Cal Poly. So this weekend, Big West Play opens up. Email me, CJ at the CJ Silas Show. CJ at the CJ Silas Show. I give away 1 pair of Kruko tickets. Free food, free beer. You have to behave, though. You have to be on your best behavior. And you can't wear Northridge colors. It's the rules. I don't make those up. It's on the ticket. That's your Cal Poly Sports Update. Cuesta softball lost to Ventura when they opened up WSC Play. They lost a doubleheader to Canyons, and they're hosting Moore Park. They did beat Oxnard with a walk-off. Baseball beat Pierce to sweep the season series. They have 3 versus Moore Park. No one, it was a no-hitter. Ben Broughton had a no-hitter with 1 base runner from a walk. That's awesome for Cuesta. Track and field having a Western State Conference meet next week. Hancock, 4 football players made the all-scholar athlete team. Very important. LJ Vongzi, Avery Fondern, and Benito Rivas, as well as Colton Thieker. Softball, I was there. Abby Salazar hit for the cycle against Santa Monica. It was so fun. They opened up WSC play. Baseball lost at Oxnard. They lost at Santa Barbara. They have a home game this weekend against Santa Barbara. And in women's basketball, sophomore J.C. Bain, another incredible honor. She's had 1,000 points at Hancock. She averaged 21 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 4.6 assists. And she's all-state second team. That is your Allen Hancock College, Cuesta College, and Cal Poly Sports Update. Gabe, the intern, has about 2 minutes to tell us about the contest.
That's perfect amount of time. So as you all know, CJ has been working night and day tirelessly. I actually think she hasn't slept in roughly 48 hours to finish all the pretty bells and whistles on this party that's been in the works for such a long time.
I know. And the show.
The
special show on March 30th. We're not going to tell anyone about it. It's a surprise.
10 years.
10 years. And then we're having our intern party on that Wednesday after the show. It's going to be a lot of eating and drinking that week.
Yeah, but that's
glad
good.
You're 21.
Yeah, well, I've been cutting, so I actually need to put the pounds back
Okay, so cut through spring break because you're going to be eating a lot right when you get back. Right. Okay, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No, it's perfect. And the best part about the party is CJ is generously going to be giving away 2 sets of 2 tickets. That's 4 individuals all together, 2 duos, so 2 winners and 2 plus ones to come to the party
so crazy.
And enjoy all of the festivities and immerse yourself with the CJ Silas Show family.
My mom thought it was a bad idea.
Why?
To give away tickets. She says, what if some of your crazy listeners? I said, listen, Mom, the crazy listeners were when I had a national show. The local show does not have crazy listeners.
Right. No, it's the Central Coast. Everyone's so chill here.
Give them a taste of what's going to be at the party that you know of.
So I will be working behind the bar if you need to know where to find me. CJ is busting out the crates of the fancy schmancy extra special wine that she's been collecting for, I think, 150 years. Some of it dates back to like pre-Civil War times. But the corks are coming out. We're going to have a little photo area. There's going to be a pretty little scenery, and everybody's going to be enjoying themselves. Now, I know you're all thinking right now, how do I go? How do I go? How do I go? In fact, there actually may even be a meet and greet section where you get to take some flicks with CJ, ask some questions. Now, to enter yourself into this, you can go to Instagram or Facebook with the CJ Silas Show. There will be a place for you to leave comments, and if you put that comment down, you're going to be entered into the contest, and we'll choose our winner soon.
All right, follow us on social to get invited your 2 VIP tickets to the CJ Silas Show 10-year anniversary party at the end of the month. Butterfly cookies will be there. It's going to be amazing. I'm turning off my mic now. I'm out.
Thanks for listening to The CJ Silas Show. Find her podcast on thecjsilasshow.com. Follow her on all social media platforms, including her YouTube channel. Make an appointment to listen every Wednesday on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7. CJ out.